Okay, we're all set.
Okay, welcome everyone to the May Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the Village of Babylon. At this point, I'd like to open the meeting, call the meeting to order, and Mr. Carl Anderson will do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a couple of housekeeping items. The order in which we will hear each one of the applications is the order in which it appeared in the legal, in the Beacon. And the way this works is that the applicant will start the process off and discuss what it is that they're looking to do. They may be subject to some questions from the board. And then after that, anyone in the audience, I'll ask that anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application can speak. And then after that, anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the application may also speak. There is an opportunity for the applicant to counter with any questions or make any clarifications that may need to be made. Also, a point of law is that the board has 60 days to render a final decision on these applications once we have received all pertinent information that we feel is necessary to make that decision. So with that, Mr. Farrell, we could start with application number 1.
Sure. Application number 1, the application of Peter and Jennifer O'Doherty, 38 Tappan Avenue, Babylon, New York, for permission to construct a front portico and rear open addition located at 38 Tappan Avenue, Babylon. Do you want me to read all the relief as well?
Please.
Okay. Requiring a variance to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet as required to 20.2 feet as proposed. Requiring a variance to reduce the side yard setback from 6 feet as required to 5.3 feet as proposed, and to increase the total lot coverage from 25% required to 29% proposed. Property located in an A9 district, Suffolk County Real Property Tax Map, District 0102, Section 8, Block 1, Lot 101.
Yes, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. O'Doherty.
Hi, good evening.
So we're looking at your application and you're looking at constructing the front portico and the rear open porch addition.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so how, we've looked at your plot plan, we've looked at the plans for the structure, and I would say that it looks like the front yard setback there, although there's 30 feet required, it's always been at like 25.2. So that looks to be existing to me, and you want to
Correct.
down a little bit more. That's what I'm seeing initially.
Yes, it's only a 5-foot width porch. It's not a 10-foot. I would love a 10-foot front porch, but we knew the setback. The existing lines were already over, so we decided to go with a 5-foot. As per our architect, just do a 5-foot porch in width.
Okay. Any other board members?
Nothing with respect to the front porch.
Carl, I thought you had some.
Well, I had a question about the back porch.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's just a question. But if on the back porch, I just couldn't tell from the drawings. It looks like there's a set of stairs. That's just in and out of the house.
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay, there's no stairs to like access the basement.
Yeah.
No, not from the outside, no.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other board members wish to ask any questions?
No, this is pretty consistent with
Yeah.
what's going on in that neighborhood. You know,
I agree.
most of a lot of the houses have front porches.
Mhm.
The houses were all built in a similar style in the 50s, and a lot of the houses have either put a front porch on, or have actually brought the whole house out to even with that reverse gable there. So it looks nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. I have to ask, are there any people attending the meeting tonight that wish to speak in favor of this application?
No, there's not.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
No.
Okay, all right, Mr. and Mrs. O'Doherty, you'll be hearing from us when our decision is made,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We can sign off now?
if you so desire.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, ready for application number 2?
Yes.
Are we, all right. Are they in yet?
Letting them know.
Hello. Oh,
Okay. All right, we got application number 2, which is the application of 140 Deer Park Avenue Associates LLC, 101 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite 100, Plainview, New York. Agent for the owner, Joseph Sforzo, 140 Deer Park Avenue, Babylon, New York, for special permission and variances as required to redevelop the property by constructing a 3-story building for mixed use with retail on the ground floor and a total of 14 dwelling units on the 2nd and 3rd floors, including special permission for dwelling units on the 1st floor above the ground floor, and variances to exceed the maximum of 2.5 stories and height of 30 feet to 3 stories and 41 feet 8 inches as proposed. A variance to maintain apartments on a 3rd floor, a variance to exceed maximum density of 5 dwelling units given the square footage of the land area on the same property to 14 units as proposed, and a variance to diminish the number of parking spaces from 32 as required to 31 as proposed at the premises located at 140 Deer Park Avenue, Babylon, New York. Property located in an RB district, Suffolk County Real Property Tax Map 102-10-1, Lot 29, made in accordance with the zoning code.
Okay. Who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening, members of the board. Joseph F. Bazell Blanda Visconti, 535 Broad Hollow Road, Suite B4 in Melville, for the applicant. The application concerns redeveloping the old Lohman's property. Property is at the northwest corner of Deer Park Avenue and Grove Place. It is zoned retail business. It has 25,245 square feet with 175 feet of width along Deer Park Avenue and 150 feet along Grove Place. It formerly supported Lohman's together with a number of smaller tenants on the north side. Now it only supports Weichert Realtor. The rest of the building is vacant. Lohman's is long gone. The building has been vacant for some time. The parking on this property is in the rear of the building. It has access off Grove Place, so no one coming or going to that parking lot need cross the Deer Park Avenue sidewalk or deal with cars parked on Deer Park Avenue. The building is in fair condition, but has certainly seen better days. It was also built for a particular user, Lohman's, which is long since gone. An unusual and positive feature about this property is it has a plaza up front. The building is not on the sidewalk. It's set back from the sidewalk on Deer Park Avenue. It is also set back from the corner of Grove Street, and there is landscaping around the corner that would be maintained. The site has been suffering vacancies for a long time now. My clients want to redevelop it in a positive fashion, upgrade the site, and provide an asset to the downtown area of the village. Downtown Babylon is a traditional downtown, pedestrian-oriented. Most buildings are at sidewalk. Many buildings are right next to each other. Many have apartments on the upper floors, as is customary in a downtown, and downtowns need apartments to make them function. Parking is principally, for most parcels, in public lots or on street. However, the site we're talking about has an existing parking area, which we'll get to in a moment. To the north of our property, up Deer Park Avenue, there's a group of properties held in related ownership. 3 buildings, 2 are mixed use. One is a 2, one is a 2.5. Then there's a narrow driveway, and then there's a 2-family house, and then it is commercial and mixed use running up to Railroad Avenue, where there is a 3-story mixed use building on each corner. To the south, across Grove, there's a 3-story mixed use building, then commercial and mixed use running down to Main. Across Deer Park Avenue, it's similar. Diagonally across Deer Park Avenue, there's a 3-story mixed use building. The applicant owns the property. The applicant purchased the property in 2019 with the aim of upgrading and improving it. We were delayed a little in the applications because of COVID, but we are here and we are consistently moving forward with the project. The Lohman's building was not the original building on the site. That was demolished when Lohman's was built. Turning a little to the application, there'll be a beautiful building fully in character with downtown Babylon, which Mr. Caliendo will talk about in a moment. Commercial on the first floor with apartments above. We're working with the existing building. We're not demolishing it. The parking in the rear yard will be maintained. It will not be diminished. In fact, we will add parking. We are actually reducing the building on the first floor to add 8 parking spaces to the site and to add handicap parking where there is none at the moment. We're maintaining the 30-foot setback on Grove and maintaining the landscaping on Grove, replenishing the buffer in the rear. We will improve and upgrade the plaza on Deer Park Avenue. Again, this building is not on the sidewalk. It's set back, both from Deer Park Avenue and from Grove, with a new attractive facade. The number of commercial units will depend on the tenants. It will be no more than 6. Likely it will be less, as some tenants will probably take more than 1 unit. The apartments are on the upper floors. And if you look at the setbacks, 10-foot rear yard setback is required. To the first floor here, it will be 74 feet. To the upper floors, it will be 50 feet, or 5 times the requirement on the upper floors and 7.4 times the requirement on the first floor. If you look at the total front and rear yard setback requirement of 45 feet, we're proposing 60.7% or 135% of that. We're maintaining the 5-foot setback against the property to the north. The requirement is 0. We're under our lot coverage. 70% is allowed. We're only at 34.12, or less than 50% of what is allowed. We think the building is in character. There are a number of 3-story buildings around, including across Grove, diagonally across Deer Park Avenue, 2 at the corner of Railroad and Deer Park Avenue. Of course, you have that very long 3-story building on the west side of Deer Park Avenue at Main. There's another building north of it, which has a number of commercial tenants, including Cafe Il Villaggio. And then there's another 3-story building across from the Monsoon Restaurant. We only need really a half-car or 1-car parking variance. As far as the height, they have calculated it to the top of an architectural feature, not to the top of the roof itself. Mr. Caliendo will explain a little bit. But to improve the look of the building, an architectural feature was added at the corner. That's where that 42 feet 8 inches comes from. That extends 3 feet over the parapet wall, and the parapet wall extends over the roof. So the height of the actual roof of the building is not up at 42 feet. I would turn it over to Mr. Caliendo at this point, if he's here.
I'm here.
Hey, Ray.
How you doing, guys?
Ray, you should clean your office.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's telling me the same thing. Too many papers. I keep everything at arm's length.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the facade of the building and explain how the height got calculated and where the roof is?
Okay. Good evening, board members. Do you need me to introduce and give my address and everything, or no?
Yeah, go ahead. Knock yourself.
Okay. Ray Caliendo, Artiform Architects, 159 Broadway, Amityville, for the applicant. Okay, with respect to the architecture of the building, we consulted at length with village personnel, and we came up with the idea of using the building, which is at the northeast corner of Deer Park Avenue and Merrick Road, which contains the Bubble retail outlet, as a model for how we can potentially move forward with the architectural design. This building, we attempted to use that idea, which is a mixed-use building. We decided to employ the mansard roof idea on the building and create some variation in the look of the building as it moves. As you probably know, the building has a sawtooth configuration at ground level. We're not going to follow that sawtooth configuration above. We're going to come straight across. So the footprint will not be added to. As a matter of fact, we're cutting back on the footprint in the rear of the building by approximately, I believe it's 23 feet, in order to allow the additional parking. So I want to, maybe reemphasize that we're actually decreasing the square footage of the footprint to be able to be in closer compliance with the parking. As Attorney Bizel mentioned, we are proposing a 3-story structure, 2 stories of residential apartments above. It would be 7 units per floor, 2 2-bedroom units per floor, and the rest as 1-bedroom units. The parking is very close. We're essentially a half a spot shy. And I probably could have complied with the parking had I narrowed the parking spaces a little bit, but I wanted to make them, the parking spaces ample. With respect to the height of the building, if you look at the drawings that we filed, as the Attorney Bizel mentioned, the top of the lower roof, not the piece at the corner, which is slightly higher for architectural effect, but the main roof at 38 feet 8 inches. In reality, you're only looking at a parapet wall or the front of that mansard. The actual roof line is approximately 3 feet down from there. So in reality, you're probably looking at 35 to 35 and a half feet, where as far as the actual height from the roof down to the top of curb. And again, we're measuring from top of curb, not from the first floor. And top of curb is, I believe it's about 1.5 feet below the finished first floor. So that gives you your height. And we do have some flexibility with respect to floor heights in terms of what we can do. We are attempting to maintain the second floor slab because it does have a partial second floor up there right now. We want to sort of match that up and use it. So that's the only height that's actually being maintained. Everything else is being reworked from scratch. I don't know. Is there anything else anything I can answer for you? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Ray. You're looking at like 7 apartments on each floor, yet our code is indicating that that is far and above the density requirements.
Yes.
So how do you propose to make that work?
Well, as we say, the parking is very, very close as it is. The size of the units is actually very generous and very much in keeping with what you're going to find in these types of developments. The building will have some amenities. As I said, if you're talking about square footage, the trend in all of these downtown areas out of necessity is to build vertically as opposed to building out horizontally. So naturally, if you're going to maintain the same lot area, you're going to have a density issue, as you go vertically. So, I would submit that perhaps in the case of this particular project, the density issue isn't quite as pertinent as some of the other requirements, but that's for the village to decide.
And obviously, we do have 31 parking spaces where 31 and a half is required. And I'll add, in addition to not narrowing the spaces, we didn't want to touch the landscaping at the corner of Grove to try to put a parking space in that area. We wanted to leave that. We felt that was a very positive amenity. The building needs a lot of work to improve it. There's an economic factor here, and without getting a certain density, the economics don't justify redoing the building. The building would sit as it has sat for some time now. The proposal would also upgrade the commercial, making the units far more rentable because you wouldn't have one big footprint for Lomans. We're making it smaller on the commercial sides so we can add parking and make it better. And we're making the spaces more usable and rentable in a smaller unit fashion, which is more keeping with downtown Babylon Village. It's a beautiful building, and of course it's set back from both lines, so it's not on top of the sidewalk like so many other buildings are. You get a chance to have that plaza out front and have that landscaping on Grove. The density in downtowns has changed a lot since that code was written. It's changed a lot since I started to practice, and I'm not going to get into how long that is. But you do also see this is Babylon Village is graced with having a great train station. People can walk to the station, and anybody living here can walk to the stores, the shops, the restaurants that are in the village, and that helps give the village synergy. Most of the units are 1 bedrooms. We think it works on all issues and would be a very positive upgrade for this particular property, which would be an upgrade for the area, that section of downtown Babylon Village, which would be an improvement. And of course, because we have parking on site, the people utilizing the apartments here don't have to rely on public parking. They park on the lot.
So Ray was mentioning something about the architectural with the height of the building. You've got a mansard, you've got the parapet above. Just what is the bottom line with the real height of the top of that roof?
The corner piece, which is again another mansard roof and another parapet. If I don't alter the floor heights, you'd be talking realistically about 41 feet.
That's to the top. What about to the roof itself?
Down to the roof, you're talking approximately 5 feet down from there. The roof itself, the plane, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be only at about 35 feet.
Okay. Maureen, do you have the thing from the engineering report from Savick?
Yes.
I just want to make a note also, being that we are exceeding the maximum on the dwelling, we have to take into consideration sanitation and also the water.
Yeah, obviously, we would use water-saving plumbing fixtures in connection with the construction, and the site is connected to public sewers now.
The energy code now is very strict and mandates certain types of water usage anyway. So this is the kind of thing that would come into effect without even being required beyond the building department.
Okay, we received back from Savick and Murray, just a quick letter concerning the secret that you had filled out.
Yes?
And I guess it was, question 12B. You answered yes to something that it says is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designed as sensitive for archaeological sites in New York State Historic Preservation Office.
No, it's not, nothing on this site has been designated for that in any manner or means.
Okay,
There's a distance you have to go by. There are some historic sites in downtown Babylon, including the Old Town Hall, but there's nothing on this site that's archaeological. This site was scraped clean. In fact, when they built the Lohman's building, which was sometime between 1962 and 1978, they took down the original building in its entirety. And if you look at the aerials, you'll see that during a period, there was no building on that site, and then Lohman's was built. So the whole site was completely scraped clean at that period. There's nothing archaeological on this site.
okay, so really it should be no, right?
Let's go with no.
Okay, okay. And then on 20, it says, has the site of the proposed action or adjacent property been the subject of remediation, ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? And the answer is yes.
There was, Ray, there was some remediation that had to happen on this property. Ray, do you want to update a little bit?
Yeah, my understanding of this is that, and by the way, this predates the construction of the Lohman's building. This is when the building was, many, many decades past. There apparently was a very minor chemical spill at some point that was never caught and should have been caught prior to the construction of the Lohman's building. But the environmental investigator that the owners employed prior to closing was very sharp and picked up on this. And it was something that, needed to be attended to. And it's my understanding that the cleanup, which it's very difficult to even call it a cleanup because it was so minor, is either nearly done or actually done at this point. I can give you more specifics if you want to hear about it, but it's nothing that would be of any consideration with respect to proposed development.
Yeah, we would need some documentation on it, right? What I would tell you, my recollection, because I've lived here all my life, is what used to be there that was usually referred to as the Dollard Block. And that one whole building that was there, it succumbed to a fire in 1971 or thereabouts. And you're right. I mean, it was a vacant lot until they built the Lohman's building, the current building now.
Yeah. Like I said, that problem, whatever it was, it transcended the Lohman's development and really should have been caught before they built that building back in the 80s, but they never did.
Okay.
But obviously it's being addressed and it has been in the process for a while. While I didn't do the closing, I know there were delays in the closing while that issue was investigated. My clients have an environmental company that has been dealing with it and will complete the work and is obligated to do so.
Okay. Any other board members have any questions?
Yep, I have a couple questions. One question is, how do you plan to control access to the parking for, any apartments that might be there, things like that, because it's a very busy downtown area and parking is tough on a Friday night.
Well, as it, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Oh, you could go, Ray.
I mean, as it is right now, even when it was Loman's, because I live in the village, so I remember when it was Loman's, you know, you couldn't just, you know, park in there without getting either ticketed or towed right away. And, you know, these, you know, although as far as I know, we have no, the owner does not intend to specifically designate parking spaces per a particular occupant. I know they're going to be very vigilant in making sure that nobody parks there that should not be parking there. So make sure that the apartment dwellers can get in and out of there every day. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
And certainly there'd be signage that would identify the lot being restricted to the residents of the building, or maybe people working in the building during the day if the residents are out.
I mean, those signs exist right now. And I can tell you, because I'm over there all the time, like if we're going to Kilwins or something like that, that's a very easy thing to do, to sneak into that parking lot, especially with it, you know, mostly unoccupied, but nobody does it. The signs seem to be pretty effective there, so.
Right. So no plans for, say, a gated access with a card key or something like that?
I don't believe so. I mean, in my view, something like that only occurs after a certain point of time during operation if it proves to be problematic, but not from the onset.
Yeah, it would be, things like that would be done obviously if necessary, but it wouldn't be the choice at the get-go.
Other question I have is related to the commercial on the first floor, and depending, you know, up to 6 commercial businesses, and then apartments above of a, you know, whatever number. What about a loading dock, or for, you know, again, people moving in and out of apartments, deliveries? It becomes a very congested Deer Park Avenue when, you know, businesses are getting deliveries and the trucks are double parked or taking up curb space. Or, you know, people are trying to move in or out of their 1-bedroom apartment with a U-Haul on a Saturday. You know, is there plans for a loading platform, something so that these deliveries can be off Deer Park Avenue or Grove Avenue and make it, you know, less of a impediment for the rest of the traffic in the community?
It's been my experience that most of the deliveries that you're speaking of will take place off hours. There's not going to be, you know, there are no intentions of having food establishments in there for the time being. So we're not talking about long deliveries of, you know, perishables and whatnot. So yeah, it's difficult to sort of envision exactly the types of deliveries we'd be talking about without knowing the exact tendencies. But I don't anticipate that being a problem given the size of the lot and the easy maneuverability that I think we're going to have there. I wish I could give a better answer, but an actual loading dock, I don't think would be in order for a center this small.
They can.
And the building does have an elevator. I'm sorry, Joe. The building does have a full passenger elevator, you know, to facilitate tenants moving in and out a little more easily.
And the building does have a parking lot in the rear for a fast delivery. The driver would probably pull into the lot, make his delivery and pull out. So the only one inconvenience may be somebody waiting for a few minutes to leave their parking space, if that.
Yeah, but if you're moving in, your moving van will be there for several hours.
I mean, you would have that issue, and arrangements can be made to remember there are more spaces than there are units. So, you know, we only have 14 tenancies. We have 30 parking spaces. So an area of the parking lot can be cleared out by making an arrangement with the tenant. People don't move in and out without notice. So you can clear an area of the parking lot for the truck at that point. They move in or move out, and then the truck goes. It's one of the advantages of having 30 parking spaces.
All right. Thank you. I got nothing else, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm sorry if you said this already. What's the square footage per unit?
The average square footage per unit, which I can give you is, bear with me 1 second. 700, well, I'm sorry, the minimum square footage is 731 square feet. I do not believe we are exceeding any more than 850 square feet. So yeah, 730 to 850 approximately.
Okay. So they're not big apartments where they're gonna have a lot of stuff anyway. I'm just wondering for the purposes of the moving.
No, and there was, like I said, there's only two bedroom units per floor. The rest are all 1-bedroom units, which sort of amplifies on what Attorney Bazell was talking about, the likelihood of people needing two cars, you know, for the majority of these apartments is pretty slim, especially given that it's going to be somewhat of a commuter town or village, is a commuter village.
Anyone else?
Nothing here, Jeff.
Okay. Are there any members in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this project?
No, we have no one.
And there's no one there for voice in opposition?
No.
Ray, well, one question, and I have to ask it, because I know that to me, between the building density, we're going to 3 floors. Granted, there's many existing buildings around that are, but I mean, would this really be a hardship if this was within the code, say 5 to 6 apartments, and it was 2 stories?
It wouldn't
Yeah,
be a project.
It's just not economically viable, as I think Attorney Bazell mentioned. I'll let you amplify on that, Joe.
Yeah, the economics don't justify the work that would be put into the site. It's not a viable job. You know, the property was on the market for a long time. The property has largely vacant. It needs a lot of work to bring it into the 21st century. If you had to scale it back, it's not a workable project.
So in any way, shape, or form, any kind of scaling back is not.
I mean, look, I don't want to say you couldn't take a foot off it, you know, but that's not going to accomplish what we're talking about. If we have to reduce the number of apartments or reduce the size of the commercial tenancies of the residential apartments it doesn't work. There are economics that have to work for money to be put into the building, which if you look at what's there now and what's proposed, it's an expensive job, and there was the cost of the property and the cost of the cleanup. So it's
well, the cost of the property and the cost of the cleanup is on the applicant. The applicant didn't have, obviously the property was on the market for a long time, and you know, clearly I assume there were other people that were interested, and they did some due diligence and determined that there was a workable number that they couldn't reach.
I probably spoke to about 6 people who were looking at the building. All the other ones were looking to put more units up and passed because they couldn't. A couple of people wanted to put a 4th floor on the building. There are no 4-story buildings in the village. They moved on. Other people wanted to extend the building further to the rear and eliminate that parking lot that's there now, or at least a lot of it. And because they couldn't get a higher yield, they did pass on it.
And again, while we understand the village's concern with respect to the density, I just want to point out again the fact that we are removing a very large portion of the footprint on the building, just to make this as reasonable as we possibly can, specific to the parking.
You know, we're adding 8 parking spaces by taking down a big portion of this building. So we wanted to make sure that parking was there, and the applicant was willing to remove that section of building. And, you know, the building is not cheap, but if the work is not justified, then the building goes back on the market. And the cost.
Is this an IDA? Is this going to be an IDA project?
We have not had any meetings with the IDA.
Do you intend to, or does your client intend to?
No, and they already own the lot, so they could not get any IDA financing in terms of the purchase. that's over.
Yeah, but they could get sales tax exemption, they could get property tax abatement.
The numbers don't make sense. You know, you do get that, but there's cost involved and there's
Mhm.
burden involved. So they were invited to speak to the IDA and declined. So they're not doing any IDA benefits.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. The board, I think, has a lot of things to think about with this and discuss. And you'll hear from us as soon as we possibly can. And the application with the secret and everything, we would like to get something in writing stating that that mitigation that was not answered in that question is ongoing.
Yeah, we could sum that up in a written document.
That would be fine.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice evening.
gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Did I close?
Ready for number 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Adding them now.
Okay. Okay. We have application number 3, the application of White Ink LLC, 250 West Main Street, Bay Shore, New York. Agent of owner Nicholas Pitch, 134 Midway Street, Babylon, New York, for permission to remove metal pipe awning and to construct a rear roof over an existing deck located at 134 Midway Street, Babylon, requiring a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 25 feet as required to 10.12 feet as proposed. Property located in an A9 district, Suffolk County Real Property Tax Map Number, District 102, Section 21, Block 2, Lot 38.10.
Hello,
Yes, Mr. Pitch.
this is actually Timothy White. Good evening, members of the board. Representing Nick Pitch and Sabrina Pitch. I'm from White Ink, 250 West Main Street, Bay Shore.
Okay, Mr. White, so tell us a little bit about this project and how it's going to be constructed and how it's going to go, and we'll follow suit with some questions that we have.
Right now, there's an existing metal framed awning in the back to protect the house and the use of the rear yard from sun and wind. Right now, it's been getting torn and tattered from the rain and the wind just having the exposure from the bay. They're looking to build a more permanent structure, roof, standing seam, aluminum roof with 4 columns completely open in the downstairs, at the deck level. So.
Okay. Now, the size of this project, are you guys firm on that size? That it has to be that large?
We're reducing it right now from the existing canvas and aluminum awning. What are you proposing, or what's your biggest concern with it?
No, I'm just looking at your plan here. It's like 15 by 37 0.6 feet.
Yes, the existing deck that is there has a kitchen towards the north and the seating area towards the south. So to encompass all of that, that's really what needs to be there to use that deck.
I see. And the overall, I was looking at this, the overall height of the roof line,
Yes.
I was looking to see what that was. Can you tell me what that is?
From grade, it's about 13 feet 2 inches. From the deck level, excuse me.
Okay.
From the deck level, it's 11'6", and the bottom of header is maintaining the existing height of 7'5".
Okay.
Kind
Any board members have any questions regarding this?
Nope.
No.
So Jeff, I'm sorry, just quickly. And I think this was mentioned earlier. So this is going to remain open on all sides, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
It's supported by columns. I understand the columns are fairly substantial. Mr. White, how big are those columns actually? I mean,
They're
intricate shape, or are they square?
they're square. They're 10 inches, and they're panels. The bottom of it has probably about 12 inches.
Okay, so that's a big column.
They could be reduced a little. I mean, that's just the design right now.
I see. Okay. Anyone else have any questions from the board? Okay. Are there any members of the audience who asked to speak who are in favor of this project?
No, there's not.
Okay. Are there anyone offering to speak in opposition?
No.
Okay. That being said, Mr. Pitch will look through everything again and we'll render a decision, and you'll be notified through the clerk's office.
Okay, very good. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Hello? I'm sorry. I must have been on mute. I'm sorry. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was on mute. My name is Sue Fletcher, and I'm opposed to this petition, this application.
Okay.
So again, I live at 130 Midway Street, Village of Babylon, directly next door on the north side of the property, requesting the zoning application. And I've been residing at this address for over 42 years. And while I appreciate the neighbors doing home improvements, however, the zoning request will totally block my view of the Great South Bay. I've tolerated the existing temporary canvas covered awning during the summer months. The previous owner constructed this purposely not to block our view 12 months of the year. We feel the appropriate option for the permanent structure would be to use an additional lot of land located on the south side of their property. This would appease all the existing neighbors, not to block anyone's view of the bay. In addition, there is an outdoor kitchen blocking our view, and this additional structure is not tolerable. We believe to treat the neighbors the way we would like to be treated, to be considerate of not blocking the view of the bay. Blocking our view will lower our real estate value drastically. Our property retains its value by the view of the Great South Bay and being in Zone X.
Okay, does the applicant wish to counter or explain any of the other comments?
I feel like it is in nature and character of the neighborhood. There's a couple properties just north on Midway that have setbacks that are within that, like upload a map of them or give you the addresses if you'd like. Also on the rack, there's a couple, but I mean, as far as blocking a view, I mean, I'm not sure exactly. I know there's been a large tree there that's been removed, so that made the view larger, but trees can easily go back. I don't know if the view is as much as a concern as the character of the neighborhood.
I'll just speak up too. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Pitch. I'm sitting next to Tim. I currently live at this residence. I lived on the same street for about 11 years now. I bought this house last June. A main reason why we purchased this property was because of the nice covering it had in the back. The awning was set up beautifully. I have 3 small children. This provides excellent protection for them when they're playing outside. And then come in August of last summer, if you guys remember that storm we had, Asaiya storm rolled through at the beginning of August. I was at work and my wife was home with 2 children at the time, and the awning got completely dismantled. It got ripped in pieces. I had a ceiling fan that was hanging by a thread. I just can't have this liability hanging up, you know, with the strong winds that we have and the weather that rolls through and the schedule I work and having a couple of small children at home. I'm just looking to put up something a little bit safer for my family, for something that provides more protection to everybody. I understand it might be slightly more substantial than what we currently have, but it's kind of in the same realm. We just wanted to replace what we had, but just make it just more sturdy and not to have it get destroyed in upcoming storms. And, you know, like I said, going back to blocking a view, I mean, I don't know if whether it really comes for someone to have a right to say that I'm blocking someone else's view through my property. This is clearly within my property, and I mean, I don't know how far you can take that. She could be blocking somebody else's view, and that could have a domino effect on the whole canal. Is the first house on the canal supposed to have a view of the bay as well? I'm just saying it's, you know, I'm just trying to do what's right for my family and for the house to make it safe, make it usable. That space back there, I have a big deck. It faces west, so we get a lot of sun back there. And I'm just trying to make an upgrade, stay within character of the village, and hopefully it will come to fruition.
And increase the value of the property. It will look a lot nicer and be built, you know, built well and right. I like the changes.
Yeah, so I'm just, you know, I understand people's concerns with blocking a view. To me, like I said, the right of a view through somebody else's property, to me, it kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. I'm just trying to provide a little protection for my family out back, and while at the same time making it safe and sturdy and have an enjoyable outdoor space for us to be able to use and not have to worry about it getting destroyed.
And this couldn't be placed on the side of the house so that it wouldn't block anybody's view that's north of you?
Well, like stated before, you said I have my barbecue. The whole backyard is designed. I have a sliding door there. I have an outdoor kitchen there. We have a seating area on that side. So we're not looking to do a whole reconstruction on my whole first floor to rearrange everything to make this extension happen. We just want to replace what we had, and this is the way the house is set up and functioning at the current time.
It's oriented.
Everything is oriented to the west. That's the canal side. That's just what we feel will be the best fit for our house.
Yeah, I mean, we don't object to it being temporary the way it is right now. It's that it's going to be a permanent structure and it's going to block my view with these 4 huge columns and this roof structure that goes from your house to the canal.
Right, but what happens?
Has anybody from the building department come down to look at what this is actually going to look like? I was told by the mayor's office that somebody would be down to look at it. Because when you take into account the kitchen that's already there, now this awning coming down, I'll be left with maybe a foot and a half to be able to view the bay. And when I purchased my property 42 years ago, I selected this lot of land because it was 2 houses in from the bay. This property, 134, was already taken, so I selected the one right next to it that had a bay view that I have been enjoying for 42 years that now is going to be blocked with this permanent structure.
Well,
Could definitely be reduced.
Mr. Pitch, just, there's no, there's no right to have a view of the bay. That's not really what, we're not supposed to consider the views that would be blocked by the structure. What we have to consider is the setback that they're seeking, and whether the structure that they're seeking to put in at the location and in the setback that they're seeking, whether that's in character with the surrounding community. I've looked at the aerial photos for this area. I don't see any awnings that extend as close to the bay as what's being proposed here. I'm just curious if the applicant knows if there are any and whether or not they've been approved by the board. I'm specifically looking at Midway Street and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the street next to it. I think it's Bayview Avenue.
Bayview, right. There's no one directly around us. There is a neighbor that has a retractable awning. That's 2 houses from me on the same side, but there's nobody with a permanent awning up on either street. That I'm aware of. Directly.
A retractable awning in my location on the being so close to the bay, I would never be able to use. It would not withstand a normal a summer afternoon southwesterly breeze. The retractable awning is not going to do the job that we need.
I'm trying to upload to share the screen. 118 Midway was approved for a 2nd-story deck in the rear yard. I don't know, the foil did not show what the setback was, but directly behind that, they have a trellis that's roofed over going to the decking of the bulkhead. I'd like to share that. And then 98 Midway also has a sunroom in the back.
Does it go all the way to the water?
118 does. It's not loading at the moment. I don't know, it's not working right now.
Okay. In light of that, is there any other information that can be added to this hearing that's relative to the premises at 134 Midway Street? Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation.
Hey, Jeff, apologies, but I wasn't sure if this person's part of the original application or another resident, but we do have a Penelope Solomon in the meeting right now. I'm not sure if she wants to unmute. She's been in from the beginning.
Oh, I'm surprised. Okay.
But she has not.
I believe she was the other party.
Yes.
Sorry, we're here as well. We'd like to oppose it. We'd hate for something to ruin our view as well. Wouldn't mind an awning there, but something that's not a huge land coverage or a big structure, we would certainly oppose, and that would ruin our view as well.
That was the only other speaker.
Okay.
Okay, so we've heard everyone.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, folks, the board will sit down and take all the comments and thoughts and review everything, and you'll be notified of our decision.
All right, thank you, members.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
Heading applicant number 4, Michael Drake, and we do have one resident to speak when he is done.
Okay. All right, John.
Okay, so we have application number 4. The application of Neptune Renovations, Inc., 4619 Captree Island, New York, for permission to construct a front porch and rear deck located at 2 Lee Avenue, Babylon, requiring a variance to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet as required to 13 feet 7 1/4 inches as proposed on the east front yard and 22 feet 4 3/4 inches on the north front yard, requiring a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 25 feet as required to 10 feet 4 inches as proposed, and to increase the total lot coverage from 25% required to 36% proposed. Property located in A7 District, Suffolk County Real Property Tax Map, District 102, Section 20, Block 2, Lot 21. You're up, Mr. Drake.
Oh, good evening. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Very good. Okay, my name is Michael Drake. I'm a professional engineer. I am a half partner owner in Neptune Renovations. We're speaking about number 2 Lee Avenue East. You might know this property. This house was owned by Shirley Stuckey, 2012, October 29th. Sandy, the storm came in and inundated the building. It's been sitting idle since 2012, going to be 9 years this October. My partner and I purchased this from Miss Jane Letterman's Realty at Century 21 through Gerard Glass, who got it through daughter of Shirley Stuckey, Lori Garvin, and the family trust, who originally got it from Miss Stuckey. A little point of interest, I was the engineer from Mrs. Stuckey for New York Rising. I succeeded in getting her the maximum allotment that a person can get, 400. For whatever odd reason, the family could not come to agreement on how they should proceed, and it had ended up for sale. And I saw the property. I always loved this building. I'm an engineer, so it was built very stoutly, very, very nicely. It was gutted. It was all empty, except for the shell on the outside. And the last 2 or 3, 4 years have been trying on the exterior. It's the roof is leaking, gutters are coming down, fascia's falling apart. There's a little bit of a bird and squirrel infestation, but we took care of that. We presently do have a building permit to restore the house within the village guidelines, state guidelines. So we had elevated the house on a new foundation. It's a full foundation, and the concept is to redevelop the house where there was a garage into bedrooms. So essentially, we're keeping 2/3 of the core of the house as similar floor plan, but we're populating where the garage was. It was actually a mother-daughter by village standards, had 2 meters and they had a rear entrance. And so they converted one of the garage bays into that, I guess the daughter or the mother, whatever you might say, room, which had a separate bathroom area. That's not in our objective. Our objective is to make a 4-bedroom house, have a 2-car garage, off the street parking, which is what we wanted, and to further enhance the exterior of the house. And this is what I'm getting to on this point of the zoning board is to put basically a wraparound porch at the entry. And the address is number 2 Lee, so the entrance is off of Lee. And we wanted to formalize the entrance with a small portico roof over that to shelter that entry for weather purposes. The just outside of that entry area, it's would be an open boardwalk around the northeast corner, down the east side of East Shore Drive, and it would develop into an 11-foot deep porch. Okay, and that would be roofed at that point on the east side, centered on the house, and you'd have this very simple symmetry is what we were trying to achieve on that east side with this porch roof, and that would break the scale up. We feel of the house being taller now. We're still basically the 1-story house. We're going to put a mezzanine in the center of this house for viewing, but it's deep into the center. It's approximately a 13-foot by 18-foot mezzanine up above. That already is an open area attic. But anyway, getting back to our ZBA hearing, the wraparound porch would continue south, and it would be that 4-foot walk around, and it would empty into a 10-foot deep deck. That corner of the house on the southeastern corner is the kitchen area existing. Okay, so we would basically have a little side door off the south for the kitchen stuff, barbecue, whatever, and that would be basically where people would be, eating, and that's 10-foot deep. We have a slight platform, 3-foot 4-inch platform that runs off the south side that exits down to the stairs. We run parallel to the 10-foot the deck. So the deck is on that side. If you measured it from east to west, it's 20 feet, and if you measure it from north to south, it's 10 feet. And then you add that little 3-foot 4-inch platform in the staircase. Our offsets starting on the north, we're asking for relaxation from 25 to 22 feet 4 inches, 4 3/4 actually. We have number 16 up the way that was granted 22 feet for their deck about 2 years ago, maybe 3. That's number 16. It's the 2 or 3 houses up. By the way, our northern face is further from our offset than each of the 3-4 houses to the west. Starting with number 12 nearby, that's about a foot and a half closer north to their setback, and then same thing with the next house and the next house. So our relaxation there would be in kind to the character. We feel the neighborhood across the street at number 5, they're even closer with their offset to Lee Avenue. So we're 22 feet. When we come around to the east side, our main porch, it's actually 13 feet 7 1/4 inches. We're looking for. As it is, this is not our property past the 24.6 feet away from the house, but we have a buffer of approximately 10 more feet before we hit the curb. So we have the luxury of seeing this in a different way. The building department or the town or village wanted to build something in that space. It's their right; they have the right of way. But it appears that there is more property over there, another 10 feet. So that's just the way it works. And that porch is basically the end of that porch, 11 feet, is in line with number 59 Jackson Avenue, which is our neighbor on the back side of our house. They're another corner property, and they have a smaller lot. We have one of the larger lots, and but our porch is basically going to be in line with their east side of their house. So it's, I think when you look at front yards and corner lots have two front yards, you kind of want to keep the front of the house even with everybody else. And we're trying to achieve that too. So that would give us that kind of line of sight. So, we're looking at it from that point of view with our neighbor immediately to our south at number 59 East Jackson. And then we have a 10 foot, it's essentially a 10-foot deck. We do have to measure from that landing, which gives us 10 foot 4 inches. But if you measured from the deck, you'd add another 3 foot 4 inches. So it would be 13 foot 8 inches to the deck itself, or 13 foot 9 inches I have here. The math didn't really work out, but that would be the rear yard setback. And that's kind of in keeping with the neighborhood and the character. We don't have a shed plan. We don't have any other accessory structures planned for the property. We feel that this would enhance the building. We look at everybody around us. We're not blocking anybody's view. We're not on the water. The people that are behind us completely. They have to look at our house. This is it. This is what it is. This doesn't impede, someone's view, like I heard before. So we basically have a landlocked house, and it's essentially what we're trying to do is trying to make the house have some real curb appeal and scale this house in a way that we think would be, kind of like putting on the nice accessories on the dress. Just make this house brighten up, and that's what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. Any board members, any questions?
Here.
No, I think he was very clear.
I just want to mention one more thing, if I could. So our house area right now, without a porch, without any decks, is it looks like it's approximately 28.2%, and we're asking for relaxation to go from 25% to 36%, which is 11%. But in reality, we're already 3.2% over that, and so we're going slightly less than 8% more on our coverage, and that includes the footprint of the wraparound decks and so the wraparound kind of gives us a continuity between entries and allows us to kind of have a usable house to go up and down. It actually makes for a nice look. And we have a nice detail for railing and balustrades, so that's what we're looking for there. So I think I said enough.
I just have one question. Obviously, your that location, I'm somewhat familiar with it, with East Shore Drive. You're not in a wave action district, are you? The FEMA flood maps show us having wave action. Okay, for us, we have a full foundation, and so it depends on what the building department adopts and implements. In each municipality can change. The village didn't request it, the breakaway walls. So I don't know if that's what you're getting to, but so the option for us, if it was a fully implemented wave action, would be to have a pier structure with breakaway walls. And in essence, it just changes the structure and construction to get the same look. So I've done them both ways, and so you have the full wall or you have the parking garage piers infilled, and that's how you do it. It's a code thing that it's almost by prescription. You break it down with infilled 2x4 walls in between, and they're meant to
the essence of a breakaway is essentially leave the structure intact if you have this massive wave of water coming through. Just a little, shed a little light on my experience. The buildings on the bay, they'll receive possibly that kind of action, even in a storm like Sandy. I've experienced and I've done a lot of demolition and destructive testing. So a lot of the I've done analysis on these walls, these 8-inch and 10-inch walls that are with rebar. Even if you did have one of those walls up on where Sean Cullen's at, and you had to go something on the corner there, he's not going anywhere. Those walls aren't doing anything, and they're not taking the house down with it. It's just a technicality that we as a professional, as code people, we have to follow. And I think the essence and the intent is to start to draw a line where you want to have these real substantial buildings, and to look to the future, but really to stop the people from building on a dune with a substantial foundation, like an 8-inch concrete block wall, and you find out a lot of damage comes after a storm comes blowing through, not because the waves hit the building, hit the structure underneath and drag the building down. So that's how that becomes a bigger issue. So the failure modes, I can understand the village opting in or opting out, but the failure modes, you have to kind of pick and choose those carefully. Usually the V zone is where you really, the wave action and the V zone actually have almost identical codes. So I don't know if I helped John. That's
helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this application?
I don't know whether or not Mr. Tedesco is speaking for or against, but I'll let her know.
Hi, this is Ms. Tedesco, 12 Lee Avenue.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Tedesco.
Hi. There was no mention of the height going over the code for the village.
Well, understand there's different things in the FEMA zone that they're in. Okay.
As far as I know, the maximum height is 30. And I believe based on the drawings that they're requesting 34.1.
Correct.
So I don't see that
What the
in the
dimension is
application.
that? Okay. And John, you can help me out with this because this comes down to some calculations based on the FEMA zone. And when this was reviewed by the building department, because they're raising the house,
Right.
that comes into account. So it's not really anything at that height for the structure that's going to require a variance.
So the way the code is written, it's 30 feet from base flood elevation plus 2. So if the base flood elevation here is 2 and you add 2, that would be 4. So it'd be 30 feet. It would be 34 feet from the crown of the road. But that's because they factor in the FEMA requirements of base flood plus 2. I'm not sure what the base flood here is. I assume it's at least 2, but I'm sure Mr. Drake could answer that.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So that's correct. So essentially, the base flood elevation for this zone for the neighborhood is 6, and we have to have the New York State freeboard height added to that, which is 8. So we are with everything soup to nuts. What we're doing is we're going to be at 27 feet 8 1/4 inches if we measured the shingles right, but above that. So we're below the 30 feet. And therefore, that's why we didn't have to get a relaxation for the height. That's just standard protocol. And after we're done, I'm active. I'm still out there. I get up on the ladder on the roof. I'm going to see where where the house is going to be, and I'm looking at the bird's eye view around the panoramic view, and I took pictures, and we're still below a few of the houses that are on the street, so we're doing okay. And that we didn't want to be too tall. We didn't do a 2-story. We could, technically we can go do a 2-story over this, and it would be, admittedly, I think, a large scale. The building itself is 2,200 feet, and that's why we really wanted to encompass the existing garage area as bedrooms and utilize that, and then use the downstairs as a garage, and keep the cars off the street. It's a little bit of a parking issue we've noticed, and we're trying to be really good with our trucks, and they're massive, and we try to keep get the guys in line. We try to clean up, and we're doing things. We're trying to be really good neighbors. I love this neighborhood. It's a good area, and I know Ms. Tedesco wanted the tree removed, and my house lifter took it out, and I was like, great, they're good for everybody, that's good. And, we try to listen to suggestions, move the porta potty. Yeah, okay, that's fine, but, just general cleanliness, maintenance is what we're trying to do. And we want to hand the keys over to a nice family and be proud of driving by it when I show my kids in 5 years, and say, hey, we did this house. It was one of those things, so.
Yeah,
anyway.
regarding porta potty, that's quite funny because it was put right on the fence line.
I know.
Right in the window.
Right next to the driveway. Right next to
yeah.
We dragged it out. So,
Yeah, that was very good of you.
We didn't, listen, whatever we can do, whatever we can.
I do have concerns. I've lived in the house for 17 years. I went through Storm Sandy. I raised the house. And I hear what you're saying about doing good things for the house. I'm all for that as well. But as the previous woman spoke about losing the view, when I bought the house, I bought it with the water view. That was on the listing. My house is up for sale right now with a water view. And I just want to make sure that my water view, which is a huge selling feature for the home, is not impeded by any of the wonderful things that you're planning to do.
Understood. I get it.
It's investment, and so that's why I'm on this call.
I understand. Yeah, everybody's got their interest, and I understand that. I'm sensitive to it. I looked at the aerial view. I'm looking at the aerial view now, and our house is basically deeper than the deepest part of your house towards Jackson. So that side is basically, you're looking at our west side of our house, and I understand that. The east side the east side is not on your side, so it's of no consequence. The south side, I don't see how it can be if you look at an aerial view. The north side is a very small portico, which starts behind your house. And I think your view would actually be more towards the northeast anyway. You'd be looking towards the corner across the street, and because you have the houses on East Shore.
Yeah, I actually have two views. I have one that is from the rear deck, right over into the Great South Bay, and then I have a view from my living room, right into the area, which is, I guess, a dead end. Right there, I have a beautiful view, and also from my kitchen window, it's basically the same view. So just concerned and wanting to make sure and to understand what is happening so that I can protect my interests.
I think just for the sake of discussion, you're going to have kind of a view around our house, and where we're placing our porches. It's still going to be outside of that, but I'd invite you over and I can lay it out and we can discuss it. If you want to take a look at it, and this way you can see, and I'd be happy to do that. I mean, our plan is our plan, but I would like to walk you through it. And I generally do this. So I do this for a living too. This is my career. And as far as space planning and function, I can pretty much lay it out and show you how it's going to be. But I think just looking at what I've seen already and what I could see on the aerial, I think you're still safe to keep those views unimpeded. But you're welcome to come over.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Drake.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Desko. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll, as I said in the previous cases, we'll sit and we'll mull everything over and review everything once again and everything, and we'll render a decision. You'll be hearing from the clerk.
Okay. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.
Okay, board members, that concludes all the new business that we had. So that brings us to some old business. And the first item up on the old business was 23 Waters Edge Court, Arnone, originally heard on January 20th. The applicant did submit a new set of plans along with a letter from their attorney. There's really been no substantive change. This is written up in everybody's copy of the proceedings tonight. And David Roth responded with his letter of findings, of which I trust everyone has gotten the most recent copy of that. Okay, so any discussion on David Roth's letter of findings?
Nope.
I would only say that from the get-go, we indicated that with everything being said and done, the 3-car garage was a bit much and basically a linchpin, I would think, of why, things were the way they were. So with that being said, and there doesn't seem to be anybody looking to change anything, I'll entertain a motion on the letter of findings from David Roth.
Jeff, I'll make a motion to accept the letter of findings from David Roth on the application for 23 Waters Edge Court, Babylon, New York.
In contemplation of denial.
In
Okay.
contemplation of denial, yes.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay.
Griffin, 9 Lee Avenue. We also received a statement of findings for the application of John and Stephanie Greffy. There were a number of letters that were written because he wanted to get his pool started. And then there was some recapitulation going back to whether or not he could construct the new decks, which everybody seemed to be in agreement that that was fine. The only thing that seemed to be the issue was the staircase to the second floor. And everybody received the most recent letter on here denying that?
Yes.
Yes.
That being said, I'll entertain a motion on David's letter, statement of findings.
I'll make a motion to accept the letter under denial for the staircase going down to the level floor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
John O'Farrell. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm a no. I voted no on the decision originally.
Understood. And lastly, on the old business, Travelacci, 20 Washington Street. We also received a statement of finding of that for a denial letter with respect to the chicken coop located in that location. Everyone got that letter?
Yes.
Okay, good. With that, I'll entertain a motion to act on David's letter.
I'll make a motion to deny the chickens.
Motion by John Farrell, second
Second.
by Carl Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, board members. That was quick and easy. Now to tonight's agenda. Application number 1, Peter and Jennifer O'Doherty, 38 Tappan Avenue. Any
This was
questions?
the easiest one of the night.
You're not kidding.
It was.
It is very easy. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application based on the plan submitted.
Second.
Second.
Who's the second?
Second.
Okay.
Carl.
Carl Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain just because I wasn't here for that one.
Okay,
I
thank
came in
you.
late, so yeah, I'm just going to abstain from that.
Okay,
We have quorum, right? Yeah, okay.
okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, application of 140 Deer Park Avenue Associates LLC. I think there's a lot to consider on this and a lot to mull over. There's still an issue with the documentation from the 2 questions from the secret. And initially, it sounds like, to scale it back, sounds like it's almost non-negotiable.
That's the impression I got.
Yeah.
Which it's surprising to me that it got this far, because Joe Bazell is usually, pretty on top of this stuff. So I'm surprised he didn't, discuss this with, anybody in the village before he put it forth. But
Well, I put some of the references they have to other properties, like the Bubbles building on the corner of Deer Park Avenue and Montauk Highway.
that building was built before Jeff was here.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's a relevant comparison.
Grandfather was here.
I know.
And so which of the properties that he referenced, are subject to the code versus those that were grandfathered in to the code? From a height perspective.
Most of them are grandfathered in.
Yeah, I was just kind of taking some notes. I don't think there were any that were new and subject to code. Everything that he was referencing was old.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a real problem with the number of apartments.
I do too.
The
Yeah.
density is really an overreach. 14 versus, rounded to 5 point something.
Yeah, it's funny because the way he started explaining it, by making the parking lot bigger, you're making the building taller, therefore increasing its density. And, to me, it just sounded like there wasn't really a lot of room to negotiate with this.
Yeah.
And again, as Mr. O'Farrell stated, to use a comparison of a building that was built at the turn of the century to something of today and today's standards, to me, that just doesn't jive at all.
Right.
So one of the things,
I was going to say, it might carry some weight if it was right next to the Bubble building. If it was right next to, if it shared a party wall, I could almost understand the argument, because you'd kind of want the consistency of the architecture. You wouldn't want it to drop off by 10 feet or so. You'd want it to stay consistent. But this building is, not even in the same area as the Bubble building. It's like, it's completely different. It's apples to tomatoes is really what you're comparing.
Yeah.
is it worth, I'm sorry, is it worth, I know Bruce has mentioned this a couple times in our discussions, having a conversation with whether it's the planning board, or really, the mayor, trustees, somebody to say, what direction are we going? Are these the types of projects that we want to approve and encourage in the future? or do we want to keep things the way that they are? I think a lot of these decisions as they come up, rather than doing it, kind of one at a time, if we have some sort of a plan, moving forward for what is acceptable. One, I think it would be helpful for people that are actually buying these properties to know that they're not likely to be granted a variance. But I think it would just be good for us, for this board, to know what the desire is. So that was my only thinking, is if we could delay making a decision until we hear from somebody from the planning board or trustees.
Right. What I would say is that both Bruce and I did have a conversation with the mayor about this, and my understanding is that the board of trustees feels as though that this is way over the top, this project. And that's why I asked about scaling it back to see what his reaction is. I also said that for the other reason, so that he'd get the hint that maybe there's some negotiation that needs to be done here. We'll see what he does, but he does owe us that other documentation that Maureen was talking about, because we can't really do anything without a completed SECRA application. So, I mean, obviously we're going to hold this over. But, again, it's the other thing I heard that I wasn't really sure about, and you just kind of hit it home on your discussion now, was that the planning aspect of going forward and what's expected and so on. And it sounds like what he was talking about, we're a community of commuters. We're this, we're that. That's what, and the more of these things they build, that's the way we're going to be branded, and that's going to be our brand. And I don't necessarily think that that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, what John suggested.
I agree. And I think
Yes.
you're going to see that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
there's more to come on that as well.
Mhm.
honestly, I think what the board's position is basically set forth in the zoning code. I mean, if the board really wanted more density and they wanted more height, they could easily just change the code. They could do a study, determine how much density, the village could withstand before it became overburdensome. And then they could amend the code to create a district that would allow more height, more units, whatever the case might be. I personally think that the current code is a little antiquated. I mean, 1 unit, it's basically 1 unit per acre or something, 1 unit per 10 units an acre is really what it is. That's a little under density for a serious multifamily, but going triple that to 14 units, it's a little tough to swallow in this instance, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, John, I think so. I'm with you. I think it would be good I guess I was wondering, do we anticipate a code change at some point, because people do want these things, people meaning the planning board, trustees. If that's something that we're looking to do, then maybe we look at this a little bit differently. But if the code is the code and people are satisfied and happy with that, then I think things like this we need to probably hold the line on. But I'm also with you, John. I look at that and I can, not that I want Babylon to be Patchogue or Bayshore or any of those, but I look at some of the development that's there, and I'm not necessarily opposed to all of it, but I think something like this is a pretty big stretch. I think they're more than double. They're more than double what the code dictates right now. I think that's a lot.
Yeah. No, it is, and I know that even. Look, the board actually adopted a code change for that area around the train station to allow more density. And the first application went above what the code allowed.
Right.
So
that's what happens. That's what happens, because they're always pushing.
Right. And that application hasn't gone anywhere because they can't get off of that, that density to, what the code says, what the code change allowed. So I don't know. I think there need to be changes to the code to, allow some of this stuff. At the end of the day, Long Island is the people are changing. It's their needs and their desires are changing. I mean, I do large scale projects like this all the time. And I can tell you where, you know, my client's is building a 60 unit building in Great Neck. He hasn't even dug a hole in the ground, and he's got a waiting list for people that want to get into this building. It's like 50 people long. He's going to lease up in 60 days after he opens the doors. It's what people are looking for, but not every area is Great Neck, obviously. And I think that, you know, Babylon is definitely more in the single family, you know, type of vicinity. But, you know, I don't think I think 5 unit. I think this lot could support a lot more than 5 units with 30 spaces, but 15 is probably too many.
Yep, and the height.
And the height, yeah. Well, the height is
Yeah, and the height.
the height has to go. And I also, just to go to that, you know, he reduced the square footage of the first floor. He only did that because there's no market for the retail space.
Correct.
There's no having more retail square footage does him no good, because he's not going to be able to get tenants as it is.
Sure. And that's why he wants the number of apartments to be maximized, so it creates the cash flow. He's basing his financials might assume, worst case scenario, no commercial storefronts and full occupancy of the apartments.
Okay, so it's agreed we're going to hold this one over. Okay, 134 Midway Street, number 3.
I don't know what to do about this.
Oh, my goodness.
Part of me is like,
I don't want to be his neighbor.
but part of me is like, he's already got an awning there. He's really just replacing it. But the other part of me is like, there's nothing else like it on the block. And did the other one even need an approval? Because it was temporary.
It's it's one of those retractable awnings. So, you know, hey, we all have these awnings that we put up and we have to replace them after 10, 15 years. So maybe he should just replace his awning. These are all investments that we make to make our home look nice. I mean, to put up a permanent structure, that's a whole entirely different story. It's the same thing we're talking about what we're doing in the village. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, from the standpoint about somebody talking about their view and everything, again, in the code, there is no guarantee of a view. But you make a great point, Nancy, about, you know, is it something of this magnitude? Is it really necessary? Yeah, that's my
I mean, how many gazebos have we gone through? The wind takes it. Sometimes you just have to replace things. You know, permanent structure is a permanent structure once it goes up.
I'd be more concerned just the permanent nature of it. It seems like something that could catch on, you know, if you start allowing these things. Every one of these houses in that area have decks, and many of them are, you know, up 2 stories. You know, if you start approving permanent structures like that, then at some point, are they being, you know, walled in? Are they you're doing all different things to them. I'd love, just for the sake of his, you know, the relationship with his neighbor, I'd love to see him consider replacing a canvas one or something along those lines, a pergola with some sort of temporary canvas roof or something like that.
I mean, but considering the code and the variance he needs for the rear yard setback, the size of this thing is excessive.
It's huge.
It's excessive. So to me, just based on that, is, you know, it's a little over the top. So do we want to vote on this one tonight, or we want to hold it over and mull it over, or ask Mr. Pitch, would he consider scaling it down?
I think I would support, scaling it back or consider replacing it with something similar to what was up there, that seasonal that comes down, whatever, 8 months out of the year or 6 months out of the year, whatever it may be. I understand how that might not be as desirable, but something to consider.
Right. Well, the thing we hang our hat on is that he's looking for the variance, for his rear yard setback. And he wants to go from 25 feet. He's looking at over almost, another 15 feet back there.
Yeah, it goes all the way to the edge of the deck almost.
All the way to the end of the walkway for the dock, for the bulkhead.
To the dock, correct.
So maybe that's something that we could ask him if he would consider.
I think if he would, I'm supportive of asking him to reconsider his design and his approach, like John mentioned.
Yeah, because 4 columns, right? 4 columns. The foundation of each column is 2 feet by 2.5 feet.
The column itself is anywhere from 10 to 12 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That's big.
It's big.
Yeah, the architect did indicate the columns could be a little smaller, but I don't know if when you're, if that's as small as, is that 6 inches or 8 inches, depending upon the location and the flood zone and the load it has to contain.
Yeah, I would imagine for something that big, if you're only going 4 posts, they have to be pretty substantial, or you'd have to add posts. If you go 6 inches, you'd probably have to add additional posts and things like that.
It's gonna be like another building out there.
I don't know. I think he's trying to create, what Nicolia has in his backyard with a lot that's a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
Or even
Right.
less. And, I don't think he has the space to do what he wants to do.
No.
I think we should, I'm okay with sitting on it and giving him a chance to come up with, some kind of scaled back version, or, if he wants to keep the same dimensions, some kind of temporary structure. But, the full portico, almost all to the dock is, to me, it's a little excessive, but.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say, board members, we're in agreement. We'll hold it over, and Maureen can reach out to them and see if they're willing to scale this back.
Great.
And then lastly, Neptune renovations for 2 Lee Avenue. Basically, I didn't really see any problems with this.
Such a nice man. I liked him.
I had just one point of clarification. At one point, he mentioned the house was a mother-daughter setup, but
Yeah, had 2
that's
meters.
right. But that's not what he's putting back. It's going to be a
No.
single-family property.
4 bedrooms.
Entirely
Yeah.
gutted the whole place.
Mhm.
That would include the electric too. So with that being said, unless anybody objects, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the application of Neptune Renovations, 4619 Captree Island. I'm sorry, that's, make a motion to approve the application for 2 Lee Avenue.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So ordered. Okay, folks, great meeting.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great job,
job.
Jeff.
Challenging
Chair
evening
this one.
tonight.
Let's get some easy ones next time.
Brian.
Bruce knows when to leave. That's it.
It seems like every time Bruce is out,